Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to another Cruise of Smooth. So, before I get into anything today, I just have to tell you what I'm following down my little country 2-lane road. I'm guessing about a 58 or 59 Corvette. I can tell that it's the C1 convertible, white. It's, not something that you get to see on the road every day, especially out in the boonies. So, just thought that was pretty cool. Today, I wanted to talk about the criminal justice system. So, I don't have a ton of really hard opinions on stuff on that, as far as, you know, if someone appointed me as complete and total dictator of the criminal justice system, there's not a lot of changes that I would make broadly, but I would make some changes in certain heinous and such crimes where the impact by the victims is felt for years after. I've talked before about how my older daughters were victims of sex crimes by their biological father. Well, due to having seen the long-lasting repercussions in their lives of his actions, I've got basically no patience with it. Pardon me. Both of them have been in therapy. Both of them have had issues that you would not expect at their age due to what he did. This is sad that we as a society know this. Young girls who are sexually abused, according to one of our pediatricians, actually have a higher chance of going into puberty at an early age. And looking back on that in hindsight, it's very possible that that one of my girls is dealing with some of the physical effects of that now, not just in development but in other areas of her life. So it's sad that we know that as a society. Matter of fact, I've got to take one of my doctors to a doctor's appointment later this month. A therapist appointment, excuse me. But, so I don't have a lot of patience or sympathy for that. And I was listening to this was good grief, a year or two ago, I was listening to a lecture on this subject that suggested that a lot of pedophiles could be born that way. I know that the likelihood of getting good science behind it is pretty slim. Behind a statement like that is pretty slim, because no one's going to come out of the woodwork and volunteer for that. But I have a pretty strong argument against that from the age of 15 on up. And I apologize in advance for this being more sexual content than way more sexual content than normal. But from the age of about 15 on up, maybe a little younger, most boys want to impregnate everything they can. That's just the drive that they have. Now, you can call it the law on statutory rape. You can call it it wouldn't be healthy for them to commit to commit parenthood at that young of an age because they don't understand the consequences. Whatever. But most boys that age are taught to fight to an extent, urges like that. And I know that teen pregnancy rates are fairly high, so I'm not going to play dumb when it comes to that. But I do know that parents in schools at least try to keep them down, and parents in schools try to tell them to make smart decisions. Whether that's successful or not, I'm not going to be the judge of. But we teach them to act in contrast to what their sex drive says. Same goes for girls, I'd assume. I've never been a girl, I don't know. So, just because someone has the drive to do something doesn't necessarily mean that it's okay to follow that drive. Well, so I don't have a lot of tolerance for pedophilia due to having seen firsthand, or any sex crime, due to having seen firsthand the long-lasting impacts of abuse like that. Well, anyway, I'm also not very patient when it comes to murder. I think if you can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt in two trials, so a trial and an appeal, or if there's just inconclusive or irrefutable evidence of you did what you did. Suppose you walked into the El Paso shooter, the Walmart El Paso shooter. He walked into Walmart. There's a ton of security cameras. I don't remember if he died or not due to getting caught by law enforcement, but I'm assuming there wasn't a lot of questions about who did what due to there being security cameras. So if there's irrefutable evidence that you did what the state says you did, I think that you should die. My opinion. I am very pro-capital punishment. And I know that there's the argument, well, it costs more to kill him than it does to keep him in jail for life. No. I was actually having this discussion with my wife the other day. My opinion, if a mass shooter got tried and convicted and was sentenced to death, it cost $20. And here's the way you do that. He gets to die the same way his victims did. You get a bunch of guys with a bunch of guns, and they start shooting around. He's blindfolded. You start shooting around him, and one guy's given the order to drop him. Some might call that a heinous punishment. I call that swift justice. And I also consider that is deterrent. couple punk teenage kids drug a man behind their truck on a chain till he died. You want my opinion? They get hooked up behind the truck and drug. Anyway, so as far as criminal justice reform goes, I think that the punishments on the severe end of the spectrum for the more heinous crimes should somewhat match the severity of the crime. But when you get down to the other end, possession, dealing, speeding, even fleeing and evading, in my opinion, okay, you take a drug dealer that's just dealing pot. There's no lasting bad effects from marijuana unless you're under the age of like 25, because it does hamper brain development. That's kind of proven. But there's no serious lasting bad effects. So if you got someone that's stealing marijuana, fine the crap out of them. But I don't think that they need to be serving huge amounts of time in prison and being a drain on society. They were side hustling. Granted, it was illegal, but that's what they were doing. So I think that their punishment, they should just end up having to forfeit a bunch of their drug money. Same for possession. And also, like on felony evasion, my opinion, the determining factor on that is, did anyone get hurt or property damage during the chase? Like, okay, you see a lot of these guys carry on a big chase. Did anyone get hurt? Did you hit anyone? Did a cop hit anyone? You could pin that on the cop. That cop wouldn't have been going that fast if you weren't trying to run from him. And also, you've got a strong case that unless someone is thought to be armed and a danger to society, that they should, if they're running from the police, they should be just let go. But I think that a lot of the victimless crimes should mainly be fines, in my opinion. I also think that in a lot of cases, the plea bargain is the worst thing that happened to the criminal justice system. A good buddy of mine ended up, this was a number of years back, getting brought up on some charges that were bogus. Not going to get into the details, it'd take too long to explain it, but he had to go to court for this, and it was a misdemeanor offense, but the penalty for it was pretty high. The alleged crime was not a victimless crime. And if found guilty, he would have done 6 or 9 months, and he would have lost the right to keep and bear arms, because it was alleged domestic violence, and there was an eyewitness that was there, and it didn't happen. The jury was in and out of the deliberations before my buddy could walk outside and take a smoke break. But he was going to end up, he was looking at 6 to 9, maybe 6 to 12, I forget, and losing the right to keep and bear arms. Well, the prosecutor kept offering him plea deal after plea deal after plea deal, and he got a plea deal that was like 30 days and 6 months unsupervised probation. Like the last deal right before his court date, And he's like, I'm not taking no deal. I didn't do nothing. I'm going to prove it to you. And that's what he did. But these plea deals, in my opinion, are so stupid because you can turn if he had done what he did, you could have turned him loose well before his sentence was carried out. And he would have probably been causing the same kind of trouble with the person that alleged domestic violence. Let me put it this way, if he would have, I wouldn't have blamed him. But I don't think that plea bargains, especially in cases where it's not a criminal conspiracy or RICO, or where you have cohorts, I think plea bargains are silly. Sure, if there's 5 people that are in on a huge drug ring and you want to plea bargain with one of them to try to get them to roll on the other 4 because you don't have enough evidence on the other 4, go for it. But if you're trying to bust one criminal for something, I don't think you get to plea bargain. I think if you plead guilty, the only thing that you should get, I think the only thing that should be plea bargainable in jail, or for single person crimes, is privileges in jail. So you can bargain, well, if you're going to go in for however long based on the crime, the severity of the crime, state minimums, maximums, things like that. But you could maybe bargain to get the court costs for keeping the judge and county prosecutor added into your commissary fund or something like that. Because all that's taxpayer funded, so I think that'd be a reasonable way to plea bargain. Suppose that over the length of your trial, you were going to cost the county or the state $1,000 in salary or more. Well, you could plea and get that added into your commissary. I think that'd be reasonably fair. Or plead for an additional hour of yard time a day or something. Some sort of jail privilege, but where you don't actually get out of your punishment. And also all those privileges could be taken away if you were acting stupid in jail. But that's just my opinion. I think the criminal justice system has kind of broken itself with the plea bargain, because you can, if you did the most heinous things imaginable, but you had enough dirt on people, you could eventually walk away and even get WITSEC, so you get a new identity, a small paycheck for what you did, and a little job somewhere where you won't stand out like a sore thumb for what you did. So I think that the criminal justice system in some ways is a big joke. For example, I forget the kid's name. He was made internet famous. He drugged and raped a classmate while he was in college, and he was found guilty, and the judge sentenced him to 6 or 12 months of probation because, and I quote, jail would have been hard on him. Yeah, I think that judge should have had his head beat pretty good with 2x4. Because from the voice of having watched people go through it, that girl had, if I had to guess, that girl has PTSD. She probably has flashbacks. She probably has or will have issues with becoming intimate with another man. And she has the trauma of living with that and what happened to her. So I hope that kid, due to what he did, and that judge, I hope the judge gets yanked from the bench and his pension pulled, and I hope the kid has what he did follow him the rest of his life. So, anyway, enough of me ranting about being irritated. Hope y'all have a good, safe day. Don't forget to like, share, rate, comment, subscribe. If you've got anything that you want to hear my opinions on, leave it in the comments section below. Even if it's something that I know nothing about, I wouldn't mind doing the research to form an opinion on it. Y'all stay safe. Have a good day. Thanks for tuning in for